DC, Gotham anti-hero rises with ultimate powers. Episode 71. It's been a leisurely year since Darkseid invaded and the Justice League was created. Kent Farm. Clark invited everyone to a party at his house. They gladly wore their respective uniforms to the banquet, and Martha Kent welcomed everyone in the Justice League very warmly. Although Clark did not invite the members of Venus, Jiang Li still cheekily invited Barbara and them. Clark, who is a good old man at DC, naturally does not care, but welcomes it very much. Look, those beautiful ladies, Hal said, looking at the members of the table in Venus. Barry on the side patted Hal on the shoulder and said with a smile, I advise you not to beat their ideas, because they are already famous flowers. Hee, as long as I want. What girl I don't. Hal was about to show that he also had strength, but saw Barry's smiling expression. Wait, you said that they have a master, and this lord of theirs won't be the same person, right? Barry shrugged, then pointed to the man who was talking and laughing with the members of Venus, and Hal looked in the direction Barry pointed and immediately saw Jiang Li's figure. No, it won't. Halton was stunned, including Diana from the Justice League, a strong woman. How did he manage so many women? Ahem, guys, Clark cleared his throat, then shouted to everyone. I invite you to come here to announce one of my things. I am going to be a father. Congratulations. Both the Justice League and the members of Venus offered their blessings. Jiang Li touched his chin and thought, if this child can be born normally, then it is not a big deal. If it cannot be born normally, then there will be a big problem in this universe. It is completely the beginning of an unjust universe. He doesn't want anything to happen to this universe, plain is true, and he doesn't want anything to happen to the people around him, fighting in the nest and then dying a large number of people. Then one day, Brainiac came, Darkseid came, and even Laughing Bats came, laughing and typing a mail. It seems that it is necessary to keep a close eye on the clown maniac, but the madman has been missing for more than 2 years, as if he wanted to premeditate something. After the party, Jiang Li takes the members of Venus back to their home in Gotham City. They came to the underground cave of the apocalypse. Barbara, who is currently the captain of Venus, was the first to ask, Leave, what are you holding in your hand? Jiang Li smiled very proudly, opened the box, there were 5 small capsules lying inside, and said lightly with his lips, Physical Enhancement Elixir, 5U93R. Stephanie held the small capsule in front of her. What's the use of this little thing? Good question. This is a Kryptonian nanotechnology. This thing can directly increase muscle and bone resistance to stress dozens of times. Jiang Li had long wanted to try to create a superhuman potion unique to the Injustice universe, and such a good thing could completely strengthen his Venus. During this year, Jiang Li was either cultivating and strengthening his magic, or doing research, trying to make his Venus stronger. Sure enough, since he received 100,000 world knowledge from Krypton, he immediately began to study, and finally developed it. Most importantly, these improvements are permanently side-free. He also tried it, there were no adverse reactions, but it improved himself very little, and taking the second pill would not have any effect. Black Lily glared slightly, surprised at the effect of this capsule potion. If you eat this, wouldn't it be able to have a trick with a superhuman like Superman? That's right. Jiang Li knew that Afu in the unrighteous universe had taken this medicine and beat Superman to blood. Hallie swallowed the medicine in one bite, and suddenly collapsed her small face, colorless and tasteless, not delicious at all. After Selena swallowed the capsule, she was a little puzzled by the question, aren't you going to pass on this technology? That will definitely not be. If it gets out, one day the world will be in chaos, when every villain can fight so much, the blackened hero can fight so much, how can he abuse people? This technology is too important, the world is too mixed, and the government of the moldy country is still blocking information and doing things around the world when it is clear that there are aliens. I am worried that after this technology is spread, it will be used by lawbreakers, and the world will be in chaos. The women were persuaded by Jiang Li's reason. In fact, Jiang Li just didn't want to spread it out and get money and fame. He is not short of money. What can his reputation do? Can he eat it as a meal? This is so realistic. Later, 2 good girlfriends, Stephanie and Barbara, came to the training room to practice, and Jiang Li also followed to see what shortcomings the potion still had. The 2 women wore ponytails, sports vests, and leggings, and at the same time gave Jiang Li some small benefits. They turned into 2 silhouettes and attacked each other, punching and kicking with a strong wind that they had not had before, so fast that they turned into afterimages. Obviously strengthening the potion was very effective. The strong wind generated by the collision of the 2 women's limbs blew straight onto Jiang Li's face, and the latter showed a satisfied smile. Barbara seized the opportunity and punched Stephanie in the abdomen, who flew straight into the wall, causing the wall to crack a little. My, Jiao Li's, God, Xiaofan, are you okay? Barbara was also surprised by her strength, and quickly ran to Stephanie's side and asked with concern. I'm fine, except for a little pain, there is nothing at all. Stephanie looked at Jiang Li and was happy for Jiang Li's invention from the bottom of her heart. Congratulations on your success, divorce. The corner of Jiang Li's mouth raised a smile. From now on, Venus will be the high-end combat power team of the Earth. Episode 72. On the beach of an uninhabited island, Jiang Li and Mera meet here. The latter is very interested in the former's water magic, so he proposes to become her teacher. Although Jiang Li complained at that time about how he had always been someone else's teacher, he still accepted it gladly. After all, Mei-La is a big beauty. Look, that's how water magic works. As soon as Jiang Li raised his hands, 2 water dragons suddenly flew out on the sea, spinning around Jiang Li and Mei-La. Immediately, the 2 water dragons quickly formed into cold ice and transformed into 2 ice dragons, fixed around the 2 of them. You're amazing. Mei-La praised Jiang Li's mastery of water control magic from the bottom of her heart. You'll see if you can convert them back. Mei-La seriously followed Jiang Li to learn water magic, and from the original good feeling, his good feelings increased again, and he had a strong emotion for the landman in front of him. Thank you for taking my magic one step further. Near nightfall, the 2 talked a lot on the beach, and Mei-La really regarded Jiang Li as an object to tell, talking about the difficulties of their underwater world. That bastard Aum has been fanning the hatred of the 4 kingdoms against land humans since he became the king of Atlantis, and has made a lot of small moves. If it weren't for the old laws that restrained him, Terra would have started a war by now, so he found another way, that is, to unite the 4 kingdoms and then start a war. Mei-La told Jiang Li about her dissatisfaction with the current 147th king ORM, and as a princess of the Zebel kingdom, she was naturally qualified to say so. Jiang Li suddenly thought of some questions, and he immediately asked, the 7 kingdoms today are all split from the ancient kingdom of Atlantis. Then it stands to reason that the royal family of each kingdom has the bloodline of the previous Atlantean royal family, which means that the royal family of any kingdom has the opportunity to become the king of the 7 seas. For Jiang Li, anyone can become a king, depending on the ancient times of Chonghua. How many people have been emperors for so many years? If Aum can't do it, just find someone who has the ability and capital and then clean the monarch side. Hearing this, Mei-La shook her head not long after. It's not that simple, unless he has a long-lost golden trident, don't want to let ORM fall and then claim the king himself. And the golden trident is only eligible for the royal blood of Atlantis. Now ORM is a tyrant, Arthur Curry is a drunkard, and the future of Atlantis is really dark. Jiang Li rolled his eyes, and suddenly thought of a novel idea, and then his fingers lit up with a faint light, and then pointed at Mei-La's temple. Suddenly, a large amount of knowledge poured into Mei-La's mind, and Jiang Li transmitted to Mei-La general information about world history. Jiang Li showed a wicked smile and said softly next to Mei-La, since the royal family of Atlantis is now helpless, it is better for you to try whether you can replace it and regain the glory of Atlantis when it was unified. In words, there is a hint of magic. As soon as Mei-La heard Jiang Li's demon whispering next to her, she subconsciously thought that she really could, and soon she struggled again. No, it's a tradition, I can't break it, only Atlantis is eligible. Jiang Li does not intend to let Mei-La go. Perhaps he can create the first Atlantis queen ever. It doesn't matter who the king is today, what matters is to be able to restore peace and tranquility to Nanami. Then my generation is duty-bound. Anyone can sit on the throne, why can't you? Yes, why can't I? There is a person named Wu Zetian who also broke the convention, so it is normal to have a second one. Mei-La's eyes began to cease to be confused, and Jiang Li immediately knew that his words worked. She stood up, her hands clenched into fists, and Mei-La turned her head to look at Jiang Li. Maybe I should really give it a try. I can't let Nanami mess anymore. Saying that, the corner of Mei-La's mouth raised a charming smile, and she stretched out her hand to Jiang Li. Are you willing to help me? Jiang Li took Mei-La's hand, then got up, doing crappy Western gentleman etiquette. Of course, my empress. Jiang Li kissed Mei-La's hand lightly, and then said, before that, let's do the first thing. What? Dispel someone's idea of the throne, even a little. The 2 came to Port Cin. Meet Arthur Curry, a superhero whose future is no longer Aquaman. Hey man, how are you doing lately? When Arthur saw Jiang Li, he wanted to hug like a good buddy on the spot, but Jiang Li pushed him away with a look of disgust, and the smell of alcohol in his body was a little unpleasant. So, are you looking for me for something? Although Arthur's face stiffened a little when he saw Mei-La, he still didn't like the people under the sea. Jiang Li and Mei-La looked at each other, and the latter secretly understood it, and stepped forward and said to Arthur, you must return to Atlantis to fight for the throne, you are the only bloodline except ORM. Arthur laughed when he heard this. How are you exactly the same as Vico? I said I didn't want to be a king. After that, Arthur drove his car and prepared to leave with his father, and Mei-La did not plan to continue to persuade, because persuasion was useless, but it would make the other party feel that he could not do without him. Before leaving, Arthur turned to Jiang Li and said, next time please drink. Goodbye brother. Farewell. After Arthur left, Mei-La looked at Jiang Li on the side and asked, and then, what are we going to do? Jiang Li pointed to the tsunami in the distance, and that was what they were going to do next, that is, to save people, and then directly dispel someone's thoughts. Then, they glide across the water to catch up with Arthur, whose vehicle has been engulfed by the tsunami, and the water around the vehicle is magically separated. Arthur quickly pulled the car door and pulled his father out, who was no longer moving. Jiang Li stepped forward and sucked up the seawater that filled Arthur's father's respiratory tract and stomach with magic. Ahem. Dad. Arthur held his father's head and looked at Jiang Li. Thank you brother, I owe you once. Mei-La stood on the edge of the cliff, leaving only a back, looking at the tsunami-flooded town. These are all Ormgan, this may not be the most terrible. Speaking of this, the look in Mei-La's eyes became more determined, and he must snatch the ocean back in the hands of Aum, a tyrant. Jiang Li glanced at Mei-La's back, and immediately came to Arthur's side and said to him, Arthur, Do you really not want to be a king? Arthur's answer was still as unintentional as ever, and Jiang Li nodded when he saw this, and then continued. Since you don't want to, then don't do it. The king of this ocean will have someone to do it, and the main thing now is to pull ORM off the horse. Hearing this, Arthur nodded without hesitation, and then said, whatever you want to do, remember to give my brother a few punches after defeating ORM. Hearing this, Jiang Li knew that his plan was half successful. Episode 73. Mera returns to Atlantis alone and finds Vico, as he is the only one who has a clue about the Golden Trident. Vico thought that Arthur was planning to fight for the throne, and with joy, gave Mera clues about the Golden Trident. Thanks Vico, a trace of guilt flashed in Mera's eyes, because she failed Vico's expectations and the dead queen. Just as Mera wants to leave, her father, Pinch Rouse, finds her and explains his alliance with Aum, as well as tells Mera news that is difficult for her to accept. Father, what are you kidding? You guys are in an alliance, why should you let me marry that bastard Aum? Mera, you need to understand that only in this way can the alliance between us be more solid. Nereus walked in front of Mera without permission and put a bracelet on his wrist. Hearing this, Mera really wanted to punch her father in the face. She could see that her father did not see ORM's conspiracy, but from the bottom of her heart also wanted to wage war on land fighting. Mera gritted her teeth and left Atlantis with an angry look, and on the way out, she looked back at the brightly lit, slightly prosperous Atlantis. I will come back, by then, I will decide my own path, and there is only one emperor in Nanami. Soon, Mera returned to the land, came to the land with clues, and gathered with Jiang Li, and as for Arthur, Jiang Li asked him to wait at home. When it's time to fight with ORM, shake him again. The two took the Apocalypse Fighter developed by Jiang Li to the Sahara Desert, and during the flight, Jiang Li let the Apocalypse Fighter fly automatically, and he planned to teach Mera the key to seeing and smelling domineering. Jiang Li has insight and knowledge from the system, he is fully able to teach others according to his own ideas, and he can have the ability to predict, perceive and listen to all things. Mera is very talented, coupled with a good teacher, the former quickly mastered the little fur of seeing and smelling. And I believe that with time, Mera will be able to completely master seeing and smelling. Mera looked at the Atlantis technology instrument in her hand, it was making a constant sound, proving that the place they were looking for was nearby. We're almost there, it's nearby. Okay, let's land around here. But Mera obviously couldn't wait, she directly opened the hatch and jumped directly at an altitude of about a kilometer. Seeing this, Jiang Li shook his head helplessly, a woman from a foreign country is strong enough. Immediately, Jiang Li found a good position and parked the Apocalypse Fighter, just in time to see Mera's upper half of his body fully trapped in the sand, leaving only two slender white legs dangling. My future empress, look at your hurry, it seems that the minister has to be a farmer who pulls turnips. Plop. Blah blah. After Mera was pulled out of the sand by Jiang Li, she kept spitting sand in her mouth. Jiang Li looked at the endless desert. If it were a normal land, he could easily rely on the detection ability of seeing and hearing color and earth magic. Find anything underground, but unfortunately, this is a desert, and there is no sand between them, and there are countless of them, which is difficult to detect at all. They could only follow the detector-like thing in Mera's hand, and I don't know how long it took. They came to the approximate location. It's here, but Mera glanced at all directions. There were no buildings here except sand and sand. Could it be that the clue is wrong? Just when Mera doubted the authenticity of the clue, she was just taking a step forward when she suddenly felt empty under her feet. The whole person began to fall into the sand, and Jiang Li hurriedly followed when he saw this. Mera flew out of the tunnel and looked down to see a bottomless cliff. Jiang Li flew out of the tunnel, took Mera in his arms, and flew to the ground at the other end. Mera, who had just reacted from the shock, found herself held in her arms by Jiang Li, and she couldn't help but blush faintly on her face, pretending that nothing had happened to come down from her arms. This is where the Golden Trident is made? Jiang Li naturally saw Mera's shyness, and said after the corners of his mouth raised a little curve. Hearing this, Mera quickly calmed her accelerated heartbeat, hurriedly made herself more natural, and then walked to the ruins. Yes, this is it. At this time, Mera's heart beat faster again, this time not because of shyness, but because of the excitement that the clue was right. Because she saw the stone table where the Golden Trident was made, Mera came to the dusty installation and inserted the iron cylindrical device she had prepared. Ask for flowers. It's been a lot of time here to dry the device without a bit of moisture, so we need a drop of water to get it started. When Mera heard this, she also nodded in agreement, and then took out the water bottle used to quench her thirst in her backpack and poured water on the cylindrical device. This trident contains the power of Atlantis, and if it falls into the hands of the wicked, it will bring disaster, but in the hands of the heir, this trident can help him unify the 7 seas and kingdoms. If you want to gain my power, you must first prove yourself and set off for the hidden sea at the center of the world, and the route to the sea at the end of the world will be marked in the bottle, and only in the hands of a true king can you really see it. Read violent novels. Just go to Feilu Fiction Network. When Jiang Li heard it, he really didn't mention that this trident can only be inherited by people of Atlantean bloodline. it seems that Mela really has a chance. Let's go, Mela said happily, holding the map in the bottle. For some reason, Jiang Li always felt that they were traveling, and by the way, they solved the puzzles left over from ancient times. ORM is on his way to lead the Atlantean army to subdue the other ocean kingdoms. Wang, recently Princess Mela and Lord Vico have been very close to the wild species and a human living on land. ORM listened to his subordinates, frowning ugly, and as soon as the front foot announced the alliance and marriage, Mela left Atlantis directly for the land. Can you find out where she is? King Nereus secretly installed a tracker on the other party before Princess Mela left, and it seems that the other party knew that his daughter would leave Atlantis. Good. ORM nodded, and immediately gave the order, send some weapons to that landman, there should be half-blood traitors around Mela, find them, bring Mela back to me, as for the others, kill directly. Episode 74, Italy, Sicily. Mela, who has not touched land too much, sees all kinds of new things and rushes over to look at them like a curious baby. Just like Diana, who entered the human world at the beginning of the year, facing the fruit bread at the stall on the road, she was very curious and touched it, and then a friendly uncle gave Mela a rose. Mela lowered her head slightly, smelled a nice fragrance, and walked slowly on the road, like a red-haired elf who had just entered the world. Seeing this scene, Jiang Li picked up the camera and took a picture of Mela, and just when he wanted to take the next picture, he saw Mela eating the whole rose in one bite. It tastes good, you can too. Mela's eyes lit up slightly, and she handed one of the roses in her hand to Jiang Li. Seeing 833, Jiang Li took the rose with a smile, and he suddenly felt that Mela was quite cute at this point. The boss and uncle on the side saw the two eating the roses they sold, and the expression of the old man's subway mobile phone appeared on his face. This is how young people in this year are dating. Or do roses have any newly discovered nutrients? The two didn't play much, because they had more important things to do. Set off for the hidden sea at the center of the world, and the route will be indicated in the bottle, which only the true king can see. Mela muttered the words that King Atlantis had left behind, and then she looked at Jiang Li on the side. The latter gave her an encouraging look and let her try to decipher the meaning of the sentence herself. Mela nodded, she also knew that this time was showing her ability. Set off to the way forward will be indicated in the bottle. This is not the route of the map in the bottle, but the route indicated by the bottle. Then, Mela placed the bottle in front of her, looked at the mouth of the bottle, and sure enough, saw the direction indicated. Only a true king can see. Mela does not feel that this refers to these people, perhaps in other meanings. Mela's gaze looked at the statues around her, and the historical information transmitted to her by Jiang Li suddenly appeared in her mind, and the corners of her mouth smiled slightly. Romulus, the first king of Rome. Mela places the bottle on the statue's hand and looks into the eye behind the statue. Sure enough, when he saw the route between the two rocky reefs, he was immediately excited. We succeeded. In Mela's eyes, behind Jiang Li Xuanlong's face is the sun, dazzling like the scorching sun, and the former can't help but grunt in his throat. Just after Mela reacted, she quickly got down from Jiang Li's arms and kept waving her hands to try to explain something. Boo! An energy cannon flew from the ground where they were, and the flames of the explosion spread around. Out of the black smoke came a black figure, along with several Atlantean soldiers. After Jiang Li put down Mela, he saw that this was not the Black Manta Ray, one of the old enemies of the original Sea King, and did not chase Arthur to chase them for something. Where is he? Black Manta said. Hearing this, it turned out that he chased after him without inquiring about the information. It seems that the Black Manta Ray has been blinded by hatred, and its IQ has plummeted. Jiang Li also didn't have a good impression of the Black Manta Ray, and he stepped forward and said, you know what? I think your father died too deservedly. As a pirate who plundered other people's lives for a living, it is not a pity to die at all. Read violent novels, go on Feilu Fiction Network. Even you. The next moment, the Black Manta Ray, whose chest rose and fell by Jiang Li's anger, and directly broke his defenses in his heart, burst out plasma rays from his eyes and blasted towards Jiang Li. The plasma rays directly hit Jiang Li's chest, but they did not cause any substantial damage, but blasted Jiang Li back a few steps, and there was a slight scorching smell. What? How is this possible? The face under the Black Manta Ray mask was stunned. He had seen the power of this weapon, but the other party directly blocked it. Jiang Li patted his restored chest and tattered top. Please, this dress is very expensive. Can you afford this big-headed fly? Immediately, Jiang Li's eyes froze, his hands were raised, stones appeared on the ground under his feet, and then sharpened into thorns on his own. Hurrah! The situation of the Black Manta Ray may be better, but the Atlantean soldiers behind it are not so lucky, and they are directly pierced by the earth thorn. A liquid that blends blood with seawater flows on the ground. Jiang Li's figure flashed, and instantly came to the front of the Black Manta. The latter saw this and quickly raised his fist, but was easily blocked by the former. Neither foot moved a step. Perhaps Jiang Li didn't plan to continue playing, and the fist of his right hand directly penetrated the chest of the Black Manta Ray at lightning speed, and flesh and blood suddenly gushed out. I will not show mercy to the pirates, and your goal will never be accomplished, so go to hell to see your father without achieving anything. Subsequently, Jiang Li kicked the body of the Black Manta Ray, allowing it to free fall in the air, and then fell to the ground at the foot of the mountain. Not long after, next to the body of the Black Manta Ray came a middle-aged figure with green skin. His sideburns were white, his eyes were as sharp as an eagle, he first looked at the body of the Black Manta, and then looked in the direction of Jiang Li on the top of the mountain. After he smiled slightly, he gently raised his hand, and several black shadows fell beside him, taking away the body of the Black Manta Ray. Mera came to Jiang Li's side for the first time, checked the other party's body up and down 15, and was relieved to see that there was nothing wrong. She also didn't want anything to happen to her future heroes, and not for other reasons, it must be so. Well, Jiang Li scanned Mei-Eli's body with his sight, except for clothes and accessories, and found nothing suspected of being a tracker. Mei-La, we should be followed, you see if there is anything suspicious about you. Suddenly, Mei-La suddenly realized, took off the bracelet on her wrist with an ugly face, and then slammed it on the ground and smashed it with one foot. Before, she might have cared about her father's opinion, but now she won't. She must become the first queen of Atlantis. Episode 75. After an episode of activity, Jiang Li and Mei-La ride the Apocalypse Fighter to the location of the Trench Kingdom. At this time, the sea was thunderstorm, and Jiang Li was not afraid of the so-called Trench Kingdom. It's just some non-intelligent creatures with clear shortcomings. The reason why Jiang Li is not afraid, because this time he specially added a device that can release strong light on the Apocalypse Fighter, which is enough to make all the Trench tribes dare not approach. This is the power of technology. As soon as the Apocalypse Fighter plunged into the sea, it saw the dense Trench tribes wandering in the sea. Taste the good stuff and blind your dog's eyes. Jiang Li turned on the strong light device on the Apocalypse Fighter, and suddenly the entire fuselage emitted a strong light that was enough to illuminate within 100 meters. The Trench tribe felt the pain from the strong light, and directly did not dare to approach the fuselage of the Apocalypse Fighter for half a step. Mei-La, who was in the co-pilot's position, looked at Jiang Li's confident expression, and couldn't help but raise a beautiful arc at the corner of her mouth. And she also began to think about what kind of reward to give Jiang Li in the future. It is worthy of Jiang Li's various care and help for her these days, or give a position of 24 kings. Anyway, I also have strong feelings for him. Thinking of this, Mei-La can't help but snicker. Mei-La, what are you laughing at? Jiang Li, who was the object of Mei-La Yin, heard the laughter behind him and asked with some curiosity. No, nothing. Mei-La's face appeared with a blush of near discovery, and quickly said. Although Jiang Li was a little puzzled by Mei-La's reaction, he still said, we're almost there. Hearing this, Mei-La raised her head and looked ahead, and a dazzling blue light appeared in front of them. It was an ocean storm intertwined with lightning. That thing will tear us apart, Mei-La said worriedly. And even because she was worried about Jiang Li's safety, she raised a trace of retreat. But Jiang Li is not afraid. It is all up to this. How can there be a reason to retreat? This is not his nature. Don't worry, our Apocalypse Fighter can hold up, although it will definitely be scrapped afterwards. But you must get the trident. Mei-La saw that Jiang Li was so decisive, and she could not show weakness, so she immediately agreed to the latter's words. The Apocalypse Fighter drove directly to the very center of the ocean storm, and suddenly the entire fuselage trembled violently, and at the same time emitted red warning sounds and lights. Boom! Jiang Li gripped the lever tightly and let the Apocalypse Fighter fly towards the white light above the ocean storm. Suddenly, a white light illuminated their eyes, and after the blinding light, they found themselves in another calm ocean. Looks like we've arrived. Jiang Li used the last trace of strength of the Apocalypse Fighter to let them float to the sea. Soon, they came to the surface of the sea, opened the hatch of the Apocalypse Fighter, and Mei-La looked at the beautiful earth-centered hidden sea like a fairyland, and her eyes lit up with amazement. My darling, you have suffered. While Mei-La was marveling at the beauty of the sea in the heart of the earth, only Jiang Li caressed the devastated body of the Apocalypse Fighter in pain. In less than a week, his beloved toy was scrapped, and sure enough, soaking women should not use too expensive means. Look, there's someone there. Mei-La saw a white figure dressed as a trench skeleton standing on the shore, and she patted Jiang Li's back and said, let's go over. Seeing Jiang Li and Mei-La coming towards her, Atlanta took off her helmet and stared at her for 2 days. Mei-La saw her familiar face and couldn't help exclaiming, my God, it's Her Majesty. She had naturally met Atlanta and had known each other since she was a child, but it had been nearly 20 years since that farewell. When Atlanta saw Mei-La, she quickly recognized the other party at a glance, because the other party's beautiful red hair was really too recognizable. Later, Atlanta heard that Jiang Li and Mei-La were coming towards the trident, and did not think much about it, and immediately led them to the entrance to the location of the trident. Behind that waterfall is the entrance to the trident, but the trident is guarded by the legendary sea monster Kerosene, and I tried many times but couldn't get close. If we want to get out of here, we have to resort to the power of the trident. Hearing this, Mei-La looked at Jiang Li, and the latter gave her an encouraging look. Don't worry, I believe you can. Just as Mei-La decided to go to the location of the trident, Jiang Li took her white jade hand. Mei-La cast a puzzled look, but the next moment, the person in front of her suddenly approached her face, and a hot and humid feeling came from her lips. Atlanta looked at the two kissing each other with a strange look. How come you have to kiss each other passionately before going down? After a long time, Mei-Eli's heartbeat began to accelerate, her face was more shy red, and she stammered a little, what's wrong? So suddenly, Jiang Li stroked Mei-Eli's gorgeous red hair and said with a smile, Don't worry, I will always stand behind you, bring my blessings, and become the king of the seven seas. Hearing this, Mera, who felt Jiang Li's expectation, nodded heavily. Then, under Jiang Li's gaze, Mera entered the entrance to the Trident. Queen, I'm Arthur's friend and it's a pleasure to meet you. 583. Jiang Li and Atlanta shook hands amicably and said, Atlanta is also happy that Arthur has made friends, because she knows that the surprise in Arthur's blood can lead to unpopularity on both sides. I'm also glad to meet you, you must have extraordinary abilities to be here. Jiang Li and Atlanta talk about Arthur, from the invasion of Darkseid to the idea that he does not want to be king. The latter is very open to Arthur's idea of not wanting to be king, because Arthur has wanted Arthur to live an ordinary life since birth. Then, Atlanta asked the question she cared about. I'm curious why you left Mera alone to go to the location of the Trident. Karasun is powerful. Mera alone is not Carlson's opponent at all. Now we should go and bring Mera back, and then think in the long run. Jiang Li smiled slightly. He was naturally worried about Mera, but this time what he gave Mera was not a verbal blessing, but a real whole card. Can play a huge role in obtaining the Golden Trident. Mera is not an ordinary woman, and this time I am absolutely confident. If I want her to be king, she will definitely be able to be. Episode 76. Mera came to the dim ruins of the seabed and soon saw the Trident standing on the throne, constantly emitting a brilliant golden light. Boom, suddenly, the surrounding ruins began to shake, and Mera's sight and smell detected another breath moving. The bloodline of the Zeeble royal family is still a woman, and I have guarded the Golden Trident for many years, so that the thief who dares to impersonate the king cannot succeed. Behind Mera, 3 giant tentacles with a length of 100 meters appeared, but Mera knew that this was only the tip of the iceberg of the sea monster Karasun. When Mera heard this, she immediately frowned, and her questioning of women in the words of the sea monster Karasun made her extremely unhappy and said, even if I am a woman, the throne has always been dominated by the powerful. And the king of Atlantis has never stipulated that the king of the seven seas must be the blood of Atlantis. At this time, Mera already had a qualification that only a king possessed, and there was also a factor that was fueled by Jiang Li. Can you hear me? For many years, no one except the king of Atlanta had been able to talk to me. The giant tentacle paused slightly, and then continued, your courage is the shadow of some kings, but can you get the approval of the Golden Trident? No one has ever been able to take the Golden Trident from the king of Atlanta. I can give you a chance to try it. If the Golden Trident does not recognize your qualifications, then it just so happens that I haven't eaten for a long time, and the bloodline from Zeeble has never eaten. After speaking, the giant tentacle stepped back slightly, obviously giving Mera a chance to try. Mera turned and walked towards the Golden Trident on the throne with determination in her eyes. She wants to control her own destiny, will not live up to his expectations of her. She wants to become the first queen in the history of Atlantis. Boom. When Mera's hand touched the Golden Trident, a powerful shock wave of energy shattered the surrounding ruins. Mera's pretty face was wrinkled. The power of the Golden Trident was stronger than she believed, and it was extremely difficult to fully control the Trident. Karasun seemed to sense Mera's difficulties, and there was a hint of sarcasm in his tone. It seems that I can eat a fresh meal today. Suddenly, Mera slowly closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, her pupils had turned black, exuding a powerful momentum. Mera turned to look at Karasun's giant tentacles. Quiet, if you don't want to break a few tentacles. Mera held the Golden Trident, his eyes froze, and suddenly his whole body erupted with an amazing aura, sweeping the entire seabed, and even Karasun was shocked back by this breath. This power peacefully entered her body, which was the power from the Golden Trident. Oh. Mera held the trident in her hand and poked it on the ground, making a sound that shook the sea. At this moment, the Empress was born. Are you okay? From the beginning, Atalana saw Jiang Li keep her eyes closed until there was a loud noise from the trident below. Jiang Li opened his eyes, and a smile rose at the corner of his mouth. It couldn't be better. Just now, Jiang Li used magic to briefly merge his soul with Mera, and then used self-taught magic to forcibly subdue the trident. Let the trident automatically recognize Mera's qualifications and abilities, and the bloodline on Mera also makes the trident recognize, and Mera successfully becomes the new generation master of the trident. When Mera walked out, he held a golden trident in his hand, and his body was filled with the momentum of a king. Seeing this, Atlanta looked at Mera stunned. She really didn't expect Mera to succeed. Just now she was still persuading Jiang Li to go down with her to rescue Mera. Mera, you succeeded. Yes, I succeeded, Atlanta. Atlanta was not annoyed by Mera's name change, and the corners of her mouth raised a happy smile for Mera. Mera looked at Jiang Li, this time with aggression in her eyes. Let's go back and tell Nanami that their king is coming. The picture turned, and came to the land of the saltwater country. By this time, Aum had already led the armies of the other 2 countries to persuade the saltwater nation by force. Mera hasn't been found yet? ORM asked to Nereus on the side. Nereus shook his head and looked at the battlefield in front of him. Let's solve the trouble in the saltwater country first, and we'll talk about the matter of Mera later. But at this moment, the ground in front of him suddenly broke, and what appeared was the huge beast body of the sea monster Karasun, and a silhouette was standing on its head. ORM and Nereus looked at each other, they both felt the familiarity of the silhouette, and immediately enlarged the screen. It was Mera holding the trident in her hand. Mera. Nereus wondered how his daughter was holding the legendary trident. Read violent novels. Just go to Felu Fiction Network. It's not true. ORM never expected that his fiancée, who had only been set up a few days ago, would come over with the legendary trident to grab the throne without seeing him a few times. Nereus recovered from his shock, and he immediately changed his tone and said, "We must stop, now the real king has appeared. That's her daughter, she's the Empress Atlantis, then he's the father of the Empress Atlantis, and that's a big face." ORM's face was hideous, and he gritted his teeth and asked Nereus, "Are you going to regret this?" Instead of seeing ORM's gradually reddening eyes, Nereus continued, "Although I want to wage war on land, it is not up to you anymore. Then you are useless." ORM held the silver trident in his hand and threw it hard, and a silver light flashed, directly piercing Nereus's body. ORM's eyes fell on the trembling guard of Nereus. "Pass on the order. King Nereus was killed by the assassins of the enemy country, and now I will be in charge of Zeebel's army." And the Saltwater King on the other side saw the trident in Mera's hand, and immediately knew that the glorious moment of Atlantis was coming. Follow the Queen of Atlantis and take down those thieves who seek power and usurp the throne. The war is imminent, and Mera's trident gives her the ability to communicate with sea creatures, directly calling on all sea creatures to launch a general attack on ORM's army. Mera did not intend to expand the casualties, so she directly swung the trident, and the ship carrying Aum was swept up by a waterstorm. Aum stood on the deck, looking at Mera holding a trident, and suddenly became angry. "Mera, I'll give you another chance. Become my queen, and give me the 3, not so good, halberds in your hand." But in response to ORM, it was Mera who took an attacking stance. "Okay, then I'll kill another Zeebel royalty." ORM rushed directly towards Mera, but Mera did not intend to fight the former. She swung her trident, and 4 water dragons flew out of the sea around her. The 4 water dragons tore at ORM's body together, making the latter completely unable to touch the north. Then, Mera's eyes emitted blue light, and the water dragon that tore at ORM directly turned into ice, trapping ORM in the cold ice and swelling. "You lose." The trident approached ORM's throat. Unable to break free from the solid ice that bound him, ORM gritted his teeth and said viciously, "If you want to kill or kill as you want, don't think that the trident can change the fact that you are just a female stream, and the blood flowing in your body is not Atlantis." Oh. A cold light flashed, and ORM's helmet was smashed by a trident, and bloody blood marks appeared on his face. "From this day forward, Amerius, you are exiled and will never be able to set foot on the 7 seas for half a step." Episode 77. After Mera obtained the trident, coupled with Atlanta, the previous queen, the former successfully reunited the 7 seas, become the first queen of Atlantis. Atlantis Palace. Mera completed her dressing under the service of the maid, changed into slightly thin pajamas, and gently fluttered in the sea, showing her magnificent figure. When she returned to her room, she said into the air, "I know you're here. After all, I learned the skill of seeing and smelling color from you." As soon as the words fell, Jiang Li's figure walked out of the shadows, and he walked in front of Mera with a smile on his face, and wrapped his arm around her thin waist. Since signing in the Aquaman series, Jiang Li has gained super breathing, which can automatically convert seawater into oxygen needed by the human body after entering the nasal cavity and mouth. It can even survive in space for a while. Wow, for some reason, I always feel that after you become the Empress, the femininity on your body will be more sufficient. 260 Jiang Li stroked Mera's red hair fluttering in the sea with one hand and wrapped his arms around her thin waist with the other. Mera felt the abnormality on her body, her pretty face couldn't help but blush slightly, and she hugged Jiang Li's neck with both hands. "I'm the Empress, I'm planning for the future of Atlantis, and now I desperately need an heir. So aren't you going to do something?" Hearing this, Jiang Li's face straightened. "Then this is a national matter, although it is not his country, but this is his woman's country, then it is obligatory. Since it is the request of the Empress, then I must do my best." Without saying a word, Jiang Li directly picked Mera up by the waist and strode towards the big bed, followed by the popular poker session. After a moment of spring dinner, Mera stroked her lover's cheek, and this moment was her happy moment, and said in a tone full of love, "Do you need to get the people below to prepare some meals? You didn't eat enough just now?" However, remembering the scene just now when Jiang Li didn't seem to feel tired, the blush that had just descended on Mera's cheeks rose again. "Can you be serious? So soon, won't you stay longer?" Mera immediately felt reluctant, and there was still some resentment on his face. If he really pulled out the ruthless man, he planned to leave after he was comfortable. "Don't worry, call me if you need it. The mobile phone I gave you can be used in the sea. As long as it is in the sea in the future, I will be yours. Goodbye, my queen." Jiang Li's words caused Mera's eyes to be full of affection, and she watched Jiang Li leave her room. Read violent novels. Just go on Felu Novel Network. Pamela dressed herself early in the morning because someone asked her out on a date. The red-haired beauty was standing in the street, wearing a sun hat and a beautiful white dress with light makeup painted on her face. She was biting, sec, on her flaming red lips. Apparently she was waiting a little irritated. Beep, the horn sounded, and Jiang left the roadster and came to her. "I'm really sorry, I made the beautiful lady wait for a long time. How should I apologize?" The corners of Pamela's mouth rose, and then she sat down in the co-pilot. You have a whole day to make amends. Barry leaves Gotham City with Pamela and travels to other cities for a date between the two of them. Soon, they chose the central city guarded by the Flash Barry Allen. As soon as he entered the central city, Jiang Li's sight and smell caught a fast-moving aura, sometimes running out of the detection range, sometimes entering the detection range. There is no doubt that this breath is definitely not wrong with the Flash Barry Allen. Oh hey. Jiang, I didn't expect you to have time to come to Central City to play. A red after-image flashed, and Barry Allen specially reduced his speed and greeted Jiang Li. Jiang Li was not surprised that Barry found out, because the Godspeed Force is a bug-level thing, and Barry can estimate that he can run all the roads in the Central City in only 3 or 4 seconds, and it doesn't even take 3 or 4 seconds. Barry Allen saw Pamela in the passenger seat and looked at Jiang Li with strange eyes. Oh my god, what a scumbag this guy is. So many beautiful women in Venus, he still comes out and hangs out with other women. Is it that Diana's sword is not sharp, or is Jiang Li not afraid of death at all? Hi Barry, I'm just coming to take a stroll and see if there's anything I need help with in Central City. Jiang Li is always hungry for the sign-in rewards of the Flash series. Haha, with my Flash in Central City, there won't be any crime at all, you just enjoy the date. Boo. But the next moment, a rollover accident immediately occurred in front of him, and Barry was directly hit in the face. It seems that someone disagrees with what you just said. Barry didn't have time to pay attention to Jiang Li's ridicule, but accelerated the running speed of his legs and immediately came to the scene. Episode 78. Barry came to the scene of the accident. It turned out that this was not an accident at all, but was robbed. And the criminal who robbed was the criminal organization formed by his nemesis, the Rogue Gang. Captain Ice, it's you again. Captain Ice saw Barry's figure, and an evil smile rose at the corner of his mouth. Guys, the Flash is here. As soon as the words fell, the other members of the Rogue Gang all turned their eyes to Barry. Jiang Li parked the car on the side, looking at the scene of the confrontation between the two sides with a play-like gaze. To be honest, Jiang Li still likes scoundrels to help these guys. They are different from ordinary villains. They only have 2 goals, making money and defeating the Flash. The rules within gangs are that no killing, no harm to women and children, no smoking, no cruel and immature behavior, no infighting. If someone breaks the rules, the rest of the Rogue Gang members will sanction him. Jiang Li's finger moved slightly, and a small stone rose from the ground, and then flew towards the forehead of Captain Cold Ice. Whoosh! Who sneaked up on me? Captain Ice looked around unkindly, because he knew that the Flash would not use such a trick. Barry raised an eyebrow, even though he already knew it was someone's good deed. Sign into the Flash series, reward the speed of God. The Godspeed Force that belongs to the host can be generated by itself, without consuming the Godspeed Force in the universe, and will not be affected by any anti-Godspeed Force. No need to worry about running too fast to tear time and space, can freely enter and exit parallel universes. No need to worry about the clothing of yourself, and the carrier will rub and burn under high-speed movement. The Godspeed Force can protect the person brought by the host from the influence of kinetic energy, such as air friction and air particle collision. Hearing this, Jiang Li took a deep breath comfortably, and then held Pamela's face next to him and took a sip. Pamela? This is not an ordinary Godspeed Force. Jiang Li is completely able to produce and sell his own Godspeed Force, and he will not be corroded by the anti-Godspeed Force of the reverse lightning and reduced to black lightning. Coupled with his Doomsday physique, he never feels tired, and his physique that does not need to eat is coupled with divine speed, which is simply a perfect match. How fast can the Godspeed Force be, for example? Wally West, the third-generation Flash who was officially determined to be the fastest in the DC universe, used his speed to save more than 500,000 people in the city 35 miles away in the case of a nuclear bomb explosion, in just 10 picoseconds. The maximum speed is 133 trillion times the speed of light. I'll go down and play, you can stay in the car. Don't you need my help? Pamela asked. Jiang Li shook his head. He had obtained such the ability to hang the sky, he would need help from others. Huh? Jiang, what do? You hurry. Just when Barry wanted Jiang Li to leave quickly, he suddenly felt that Jiang Li had an energy that he was very familiar with. That was the Divine Speed Force. How could you? Flash, I don't know if you're fast enough. Let's see who can put down the criminals the fastest. Hearing this, Barry was stunned at first, and then the corners of his mouth rose. He was also very interested in the challenge that Jiang Li had just launched. Okay, but don't cry if you lose. Seeing that something was wrong with the situation, Captain Hanbing immediately raised the freezing gun in his hand and shot absolute zero rays at Barry and Jiang Li. The two quickly used their divine speed, and they each dodged to both sides at the same time. Jiang Li could feel that the freezing rays shot by Captain Ice could affect the divine speed, and to be honest, he also wondered how such a hanging gun was made. The members of the Rogue Gang saw Barry and Jiang Li quickly dodge away, and suddenly felt that their heads were big. They had enough to deal with one Flash, and now there was another one. Jiang Li was covered with black lightning, and in his eyes, except Barry, everyone and everything had entered the stillness of time. He quickly came to the front of the heat wave, and punched out with both fists to form an afterimage. And the heat wave, which was still flowing at a normal time, suddenly felt that his chest and face were punched more than a dozen times in an instant, and his face was directly beaten to the point of blue nose and swollen face. The heat wave fell weakly to the ground. Jiang Li didn't have Barry's speed limit for himself. He could be as fast as he wanted, and the rogue gang was not his opponent at all. Moving quickly under the divine speed, only Barry could hear what Jiang Li said. Barry, I've already put one down. Aren't you too slow? In the face of Jiang Li's ridicule, Barry smiled slightly. He was very skilled in dodging the Weathermaster's lightning attack, and then knocked the Weathermaster down with one punch. That's a tie. Soon, the members of the rogue gang except for Captain Cold Ice were all put to the ground, leaving Captain Cold Ice alone to stare in place. Fuck. Lao Tzu has had enough of the Flash. How can there be one now? How to make money here? Eventually, the rogue gang was put into a police car. So, how are you going to explain how you have divine speed power in you? Hearing Barry's inquiry, Jiang Li casually panicked. It was also an accident. I was doing experiments at home, and suddenly lightning slashed from the sky, splitting me into a scorched outside. When I wake up, I find that I have awakened the divine speed. Isn't it amazing? Hearing this, Barry touched his chin. How to sound strange. He seems to have become the Flash because of a lightning bolt in the sky. However, Barry knows Jiang Li's personality, and he knows that the other party will not use divine speed to do bad things, so he does not plan to delve into this issue. Okay, then you can make good use of him. If you don't understand anything, you can always ask me. I am an expert in the field of divine speed. Jiang Li said that he must be sure, but he scoffed in his heart. He knew not much less about the power of God's speed than Barry Allen. Next time, I won't talk to you. I have to accompany my little beauty. I don't know why you haven't been scored by your girlfriend until now. Remember to call me the next time you come to Central City. I will treat you to pizza. So under Barry's farewell gaze, Jiang Li left the scene with Pamela. Episode 79, The Outskirts of the Metropolis. The two came here for a picnic, and as for eating some fresh fruit, Pamela seemed reluctant to eat barbecue because the flames made her a little uncomfortable. They talked very happily, and most importantly, Jiang Li would use wood magic, which undoubtedly received a lot of favor from Pamela. Jiang Li knew that Pamela was a very lonely person, because her physique caused many people to dare not approach her, but Pamela did not care about this. It was enough for her to have these plants with her, until someone appeared and Pamela felt her heart begin to beat, feeling her heart beat faster for the first time. Can you accept that I am unable to have children because of my own reasons? Speaking of this, Pamela's eyes were filled with apprehension. 607. But some people are very concerned about this, which led to the breakdown of the relationship between the two, and Pamela also plucked up the courage to dare to confess to Jiang Li. I definitely accept. The child is the most troublesome, not as good as the wife. Pamela was amused by Jiang Li, and there was a hint of affection in her beautiful eyes. She saw Jiang Li close to his face again, and Pamela immediately knew what he wanted to do. Are you really okay? A long time ago, Jiang Li said to Pamela that he was not afraid of any toxin, so he could do it without any taboos. Of course it's no problem, don't be afraid. The Doomsday bloodline on the body can be directly offset and then completely immunized, and with a Dionysian factor in the body, it can be poisoned and come back alive. Pamela leaned closer to her face, but her movements were slow, and she seemed very hesitant. She still doubted whether Jiang Li was immune to her toxins. Jiang Li saw that the beauty took the initiative. He stretched out his hands to hold Pamela's fair face, and his lips touched together. At first, Jiang Li felt that his lips were a little numb, but soon this feeling disappeared, replaced by a sweet smell, like a fragrance from flowers and plants. Pamela was a little addicted to this feeling, and gradually took the initiative, wrapping her arms like snow roots around Jiang Li's neck. Phew. In the end, Pamela was a little difficult to breathe and defeated. A pair of beautiful eyes full of love for Jiang Li, and a happy smile rose at the corner of her mouth. You're really skilled. How many girls have you done this kind of thing to? In fact, girls like you are really the first. After all, there are really very few girls like Pamela in this world, and it can even be said that there are none. After all, it is one of the hosts of the Green of all things, where to find a girl like this. Just when the two were warm, suddenly Jiang Li felt something, and his brows wrinkled together. Pamela noticed the change in Jiang Li's expression, and asked with concern in her tone, "What's wrong?" Jiang Li turned his head to see that a meteor was smashing in the direction of their side. He picked Pamela up by the waist, and began to wrap black lightning around his body, directly entering the acceleration state of divine speed, and flashed thousands of meters away with Pamela in an instant. Boo! The meteor smashed into the ground, stirring up a 100-meter-high splash of earth and rock, which immediately caused the ground to shake. Jiang Li took Pamela back to the position where the meteor fell on the ground again, and saw that a deep pit had been smashed out of the place. Next to it lay a smashed piece of iron, which was Jiang Li's open-top sports car. I knew the Wayne family car was coming. Jiang Li secretly regretted that this was one of his favorite sports cars after all. The two fixed their eyes on it. It turned out that the meteor was not a meteorite, but a small spaceship with a strange shape, which did not conform to the physical rules of the Earth. and it was an alien spacecraft. The ship's hatch opened, dropping several crystalline stones that emitted green light. Seeing this, Jiang Li instantly recognized what it was. That is, kryptonite from kryptonite. Then that is, the spacecraft in front of you is from Krypton. It won't be. Jiang Li immediately had a rough guess in his heart. Soon, the hatch opened completely, and out came a woman who was naked. She has beautiful blonde hair, blue eyes, fair skin, and an extremely graceful figure. Unlike ordinary women, she has full of beauty, just the right abs and muscles. Jiang Li kept glancing at Kara with eyes full of appreciation. Isn't this Supergirl Carla? With a wary look in her eyes, Kara kept looking around until she found the figures of Jiang Li and Pamela, and her face slowly changed. Who are you? Where am I? Kara blurted out Kryptonian language, which Pamela couldn't understand at all, but it was different for Jiang Li. Jiang Li has knowledge of 100,000 worlds from Krypton, and Kryptonian language is naturally one of them. You don't have to worry, this is Earth, we have no ill will towards you. When Kara heard this, she was immediately relieved to know that she had arrived at her destination, and suddenly she realized that Jiang Li could actually speak her native language. You can speak Kryptonian? But in the next moment, Kara closed her eyes and suddenly felt an uncomfortable itch in her eyes. Then, under the sunlight, Kara boomed, and heat rays erupted from his eyes towards Jiang Li. Read violent novels, just go to Feilu Fiction Network. Jiang Li predicted in advance when he saw the news, and quickly flashed to the side using his divine speed. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Seeing this, a look of anger appeared on Pamela's face. She didn't understand the communication just now. She thought that the other party was an enemy who came to find trouble. With a wave of her hands, the ground beneath Carla's feet grew 35 vines to bind her. Kara struggled to break free, and she also looked at Pamela with an unkind gaze. Wait, we are not enemies. Jiang Li hurriedly stopped their infighting, and more importantly, it had been noticed by all parties. Someone will come and investigate soon. The two women were persuaded by Jiang Li to make peace, and although they no longer moved, they still looked at each other with vigilant eyes. You put it on first. Jiang Li took off his trench coat and put it on Kara's back. Kara also realized her gaffe, and suddenly blushed, and her beautiful eyes glared at Jiang Li. The latter shrugged. This is completely your own welfare, but it is none of his business. Episode 80. Superman Clark immediately arrived at the scene, and saw Jiang Li and Pamela standing with a girl he felt somewhat familiar. Jiang, what's going on here? Clark landed aside and asked Jiang Li. The good news for you, from now on, there will no longer be only one Kryptonian on Earth. Hearing this, Clark was stunned at first, then his face showed joy, and he began to search for Carla's information in his mind, and soon he found Kara's life and appearance from the family tree. You're Carla, my father's cousin. Carla also met her cousin and suddenly felt that her family was reunited in a different place. Carl, I finally saw you. I really didn't expect you to grow so big. But Carla, did something happen? Why are you only on Earth now? Kara lowered her eyes a little sadly. My mother sent me to the escape ship at the last moment and witnessed the destruction of Krypton. Later, it was affected by the aftermath and changed the route, which led to the current result. Originally, Kara was Clark's cousin, but because of the different speed of time flow in space, it seems that Clark is several years older than the former. Jiang Li patted Carla's shoulder as a comforting one, who also cast him a grateful look. Now is not the time to talk about this. There are already police cars rushing here 3 kilometers away. We have to find a place to settle Kara first, Clark said to others present after hearing the sound of a police car in the distance. Later, they take Carla's spaceship to the Kent farm, and Martha is also very enthusiastic about Kara, her son's relative on another planet. Since Clark also had a job as a journalist, he temporarily entrusted Kara to his mothers, Martha and Jiang. And because Martha still has some farm work to do, she leaves Kara to Jiang Li and Pamela to take care of, and Pamela doesn't seem to like the girl who attacked Jiang Li very much. I'm going back, I still have flowers and plants to take care of. As soon as Pamela finished speaking, in the blink of an eye, she found that she had returned to her flower shop. The corner of Pamela's mouth twitched, stomped her foot fiercely, secretly cursed Jiang Li scumbag in her heart, and then walked into her flower shop angrily. It only took 2 seconds to go back and forth, and Jiang Li returned to Carla, who was still wearing his trench coat. So what are we going to do now? Before I do anything else, I'll give you something necessary. After speaking, Jiang Li walked in front of Carla, who saw that the other party was getting closer and closer to her, and couldn't help but blush, and she remembered all kinds of shy things she had done before, and she couldn't help but speed up her heartbeat. Jiang Li put his hands on the side of Carla's cheeks, feeling some abnormal temperature on the other party's face, and did not think much, and then his hands emitted a faint white light. In an instant, Kara felt a huge amount of knowledge pouring into her mind, including a lot of common sense and language knowledge. Soon, Kara felt her head swell slightly, and she felt a little dizzy. Are those just the languages of this planet? Jiang Li nodded. Yes, I also instilled most of the common sense of this planet in you, so that you will not have any sense of alienation living on this planet. Magic is really convenient, and Jiang Li never gets tired of using it. Leave, thank you so much has been done for me since the first meeting. Kara thanked the Earth Boy from the bottom of her heart and added a lot of affection for Jiang Li. Hearing this, Jiang Li scratched his cheek. To be honest, he had a somewhat hungry body, a blonde beauty with good figure, and could be said to be one of his favorite heroines in his previous life. Let's go. I'll take you to the shopping mall in the metropolis. I'm sure you'll like it there. After Kara nodded, Jiang Li picked up her body, her figure flashed, and she instantly came to the women's clothing store in the Metropolitan Mall. It can be seen that the Godspeed Force can really achieve some kind of feat of a time management master. The front foot and girlfriend are warm, and the back foot and the new joy are crooked. Wow, you're really fast. Carla sighed a little at Jiang Li's speed. It can be said that in the blink of an eye the kung fu made her come to a strange place. Later, Carla walked around the mall, facing all kinds of women's clothing that she had never seen before. She couldn't contain her curiosity and tried on all the clothes. I don't know how long it took. Jiang Li was already full of shopping bags. And sure enough, women's enthusiasm for shopping was not limited to the earth. The two sit on park chairs to rest, although the two do not need to rest. One is a Kryptonian who can recover his strength by relying on the sun's rays, and the other is a monster equivalent to Doomsday. Today is really amazing. Carla cheered with her hands raised, a big smile on her face. At this time, Carla has changed into crisp short sleeves and denim shorts, showing the brilliant beauty of young 563. Carla, do you want to settle anywhere? Hearing this, Kara touched her chin and thought seriously, I don't know. I thought about living with Carl and Aunt Martha. Maybe you can give a good idea, Kara said to Jiang Li with a smile. Just as Jiang Li wanted to answer Kara, a figure fell from the sky and smashed on the fountain in the park. As soon as the two of them saw the figure, Carla's face changed first, and she immediately exclaimed, Carl. Read violent novels, just go to Felu Fiction Network. At this time, Superman was bitter, lying on the ground weakly, and the water of the fountain soaked the slightly curly hair on his forehead. At the same time, a silver figure fell next to Superman, and on his chest lay a kryptonite emitting green light. He was one of Superman's archenemies, the Metal Man.